Welcome to Team DataFam Tableau User Group meeting number 30. This TUG works a little bit differently to other TUGs. We meet when the presenter is available, so at all different times, at different times of the day or the night, depending on where you are in the world. Obviously, all meetings are held live, they're recorded, they're online on YouTube. I'll talk about that at the end. But we match when the presenter is available, not actually to a certain schedule for the TUG. So that's what I was meaning before. Our times are all over the place, which is why we're meeting at this time today, because people are available. If you want to present at the TUG, please let me know, fill in or contact me on an email. There's a form to fill in. We can find a time that suits you. Today we've got a TC25 presentation, and we have got a few of those planned for the next few weeks, but hopefully I'll book more in soon. So today we have Nicole presenting secure, accessible landing pages. As you can see in the blurb, all about landing pages for row-based security, dynamic zone visibility, etc. She's the best one to talk about that. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to share my screen. And then I'll start talking. All right. No, that's it. Okay. Is it showing the PowerPoint?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for inviting me to come talk about our landing page and bringing accessibility into some of our dashboards as well. So I'll briefly introduce myself and then go over what the case study of like why we ended up building the dashboard that we did. I'll showcase that as well. Some of the accessibility considerations in Tableau that can be used both for landing pages, but then any other dashboard you're building in order to ensure that not only is it usable for different kind of vision. A lot of times, we'll do a lot of testing for maybe color blindness, but we also want to make sure that it's usable for people who use a keyboard and not a mouse. And so how we can bring some of that accessibility piece in it. It sounds simple to do a landing page, but because of that accessibility piece, we had to do a lot of hacks with parameters and dynamic zone visibility. And again, some of these, maybe you don't have to do this all for a landing page, but you can use it in other workbooks that you have. And then I'll demo what we built. So Jackie can't be here today, but she presented with me at the conference. And then I'm Nicole. I am a DataViz developer and senior manager of business intelligence at DailyPay. And I've been doing Tableau for 9.5 years now. Well, analytics in general, but Tableau. And I am both a Tableau public ambassador and a Tableau visionary. All right. Excuse me. So why did we even go down this route? Why did we have to go and build this? Imagine you've built this like suite of dashboards, people love them. They have a really good look and feel. You spent a lot of time in the user experience. Everything's working really well. But in order for anyone to access these beautiful dashboards that you've built, they go through Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud Portal. And it probably looks something like this, where it doesn't have that same look and feel as all of the work that you've been doing, and it doesn't really show off all of that work that you've been doing. It also has a lot more clicks than maybe you want, because they're going to come here on this homepage, and then, they're going to have to then, sorry, I'm like, my screen is getting blocked. But then they go to explore, and then maybe there's a bunch of folders depending on how you set up your permissions. And sometimes you need that for a whole lot of dashboards, but sometimes you just want something that's a little bit cleaner. So this is why we went through and we were trying to figure a way to create a landing page that's going to meet all of the requirements. So when I built this with Jackie, we were worked for a U.S. government consulting agency. And when you work with the government, and there's a lot of different parameters that you have to hit. And a big one is that accessibility piece. So not only did we have to build something that was secure from their data standpoint, but then also was able to be used completely standalone without a mouse. So everything had to be able to be tabbed into. So the first option that we went through was using URL actions. This uses the data on the dashboards and row level security to show just the dashboards that people have access to. The really nice thing about using URL actions, which is this example here, is that it's really easy to create and maintain. You can use Tableau's REST API in order to pull out the data from server, and it's a pretty easy setup, pretty easy to maintain. However, when I built this dashboard and when I did this presentation at Tableau Conference, URL actions are not keyboard accessible. I was just talking with Chris about Devs on Stage. Devs on Stage announced that eventually, I don't remember when, but in the next couple releases, URL actions are going to be keyboard accessible, which I'm really excited about. I'm glad this part of my presentation will become obsolete. But until you get to that version of Tableau where URL actions are keyboard accessible, you might have to do a workaround like what we had to do. So because of that, we could not use just plain URL actions like this. And another thing in this one was there weren't images for people to preview. You can use the REST API and image role from Tableau in order to pull in images, but it gets a little bit more complicated and we couldn't quite set that up just within the parameters that we had for this client. So option 2, we wanted to add in images because if you bring an image into Tableau and you bring an image, there's a little pop-up that shows up and it says you can add a URL to that image. That is keyboard accessible. So we wanted to kind of create these images of the dashboards that people would have access to. Also bring in the descriptions. And then we have the URLs within the images so they are keyboard accessible. That does become difficult to maintain. And if you just put the image out there, the image doesn't quite work with row level security, at least base level. We're going to show you a way to get it there. But just throwing an image on a dashboard isn't going to work because people are going to see the dashboards that they don't have access to. And for our use case, we did not want people to see the dashboards they didn't have access to because the security on them was really strict and really well maintained. There are other places where you do want people to see all the dashboards because maybe they should have access. But in this case, we needed only show the ones that they should see. So we had all of these use cases, all these things we tried. We needed to find a way to bring it all together. And so we did that with dynamic zone visibility. It is relatively new feature in Tableau, especially for someone like me who used to be on server. And so we were always several versions behind. It felt very new. But dynamic zone visibility uses parameters or calculations and parameters to do a true false logic. And so you just have to create something that basically says, does Nicole have access? If it's true, it's going to show. And if it's false, it doesn't. It's really nifty. It was a little bit tricky to set up for this, but we got it there. As part of this, demo, we wanted to, or as part of what we built, and therefore for the demo, we do use images for the dashboards and added URLs for that keyboard accessibility. But as I mentioned, you can use the image role function as well to help automate it. It won't be keyboard accessible yet, but they are making it. All of those actions will become accessible soon, which is really great. The other pieces of accessibility that we built into this was, 508 color contrast, which is US based. Essentially, it's making sure that two colors have a high level of contrast. So in this example, it would be making sure this light yellow background and these black or purple images have a high enough level of contrast that someone with lower vision visibility would be able to still see what's going on. So we always check our colors, and then there's a piece updating the tab order that I'll show when I pull up the dashboard to really ensure that when people are tabbing through your dashboard, they are hearing and or seeing what it is that they should be seeing in the right order, not in Tableau's default order. And when I show you how the tab order works, I would love for people to go to the ideas forum and like, let's make tab order easier to update than it is right now, because it is kind of a pain. But we used dynamic zone visibility to create we created containers to house both the images and the dashboard descriptions. So we put everything into a container, which again, to automate this, you can use descriptions pulled from the Tableau API. And we created some calculations that would say whether someone has access to that full container, true or false. And we can combine that with row level security to have an automated experience. In order to implement this row level security, you need something called an entitlements table. Generally speaking, you need somewhere that tells you who should have access to what data source. So in Excel, you can create this with the username, user ID, and the dashboard ID that they should have access to. Or you can automate this using Active Directory groups for row level security, or the way that we did it with the client. We actually said Tableau server was kind of the main source of who should have access to what, just the way the client had it set up that worked. And then we used APIs to pull the permissions from Tableau and push them up into the data lake. So there's a lot of different ways that you can automate it. But as we're going through, and as I'll go through these step by steps, you just need to make sure that you have somewhere a way to say, somewhere in a data source, a way to say who has access to what. And you definitely need their, not only who, like their name, but their username and user ID so that you can match when someone logs into your dashboard. And then finally, you'll see that is the images and descriptions. You can do this manually, creating an Excel file with the descriptions of each dashboard with a dashboard ID. The dashboard that I'll show, the landing page, is built on Tableau Public. So that's all manual because I don't have IDs. But you can have that same manual option at your work, or you can automate it with the APIs and pull descriptions and pull images. So a couple different ways to do it depending on your setup. Hopefully one of these will work for you all. But once you are ready and you have this information, you have your row level security, you have your images, you have your descriptions, you need to set up a few calculations. So the first step in making sure that your landing page works is to check the user ID and make sure the person who has logged into your server or cloud instance can see what they need to. So the first thing you do, check their access. If the user filter, which is just username equals user ID, so does Nicole have access? Has access equals 1 means I have access to dashboard 19. We set up one of these for every dashboard. So again, this was because we needed to use dynamic zone visibility because URL actions aren't keyboard accessible. If you have 3,000 dashboards, you're not going to be able to set up one for each one. So this part is a little bit not automated. However, it's a really cool workaround. So if you can't do it for a landing page, I think you can do it for something else. But this says if Nicole has access to 19, then say Nicole has access. Otherwise, Nicole does not have access. And the reason that we have to set up the calculation like that is because dynamic zone visibility uses calculations that include parameters to check that true false. So we needed a dynamic parameter. So we create a calculation for each of the dashboards on our landing page. And again, this client had 10 or 15, so it wasn't awful. And then we take that calculation from step 1 and we say when the workbook opens, this calculation is going to populate this parameter. So every time someone logs into your landing page, this parameter updates to say whether they have access or they don't. And we have to do that for that final piece, the dynamic zone visibility. So if that parameter has the word has access in it, then it's going to show up on my dashboard. And if it does not say it has access, it will not show up on my dashboard. So those are the steps. Again, Again, this is recorded, so you can go back and you can look at it. But I'm also going to show you a demo of the dashboard, and this is the URL. It's fully downloadable, so you can also download it and reverse engineer what we were trying to do. And I'm going to do the demo before checking the chat because I think this might help answer some questions, and then we will go into questions unless, Chris, you see something that needs answered first.
Just while you're switching over, Zayed was asking if the project was initiated by you and Jackie, or was it a direct request from the government consultancy for the project?
It was a direct request. So that client that we had been working with for almost 3 years now. So we had built that like suite of dashboards, and they were not thrilled with how the whole user experience was for getting there. So they asked for this to be done. So this is an example, and again, on my Tableau public, fully downloadable. Once I'm done sharing my screen so that I'm not super awkward, I will also pop it in the chat. But this is the example of the landing page. So we say, hey, Nicole has access, and I have access to these 3 dashboards. I'm in business, next to normal, past due. However, my coworker, Jackie, only has access to 1. She can only see twice upon a story. So when we set this up for work, this would not be here. It would just automatically pull when you logged in based on your username. And we talked a bit about that accessibility piece. There we go. So when you tab in, so this whole thing is completely keyboard accessible. You would tab in, it says the title. It would not actually go there normally because we wouldn't have that. And then it would say, welcome, Jackie. What dashboard do you want to explore today? And then the way we set it up was we actually wanted them to tab into the title and the description first so that they knew what dashboard it was that they were trying to click into. And then tab over into the image that they could hit return, enter, whichever, and it'll take you over to that dashboard. And there is a shortcut to go back that I don't remember right now, but you could even go back to your last tab. When it comes to tab order in Tableau, they have updated a bit. So it used to be whatever order you put it on the dashboard was the tab order. They have updated that, so it reads top, down, left, right. However, for this, we didn't want to go left to right on this. We wanted to go right to left. Updating the tab order for Tableau is a whole 30-minute presentation in and of itself. But the long and the short of it is you have to go into the XML and you have to renumber every item on the dashboard to get it into the order that you want it to be. And if you accidentally put the same ID onto 2 things, like if I accidentally had, this image is number 2 and the text was number 2, they disappear from your dashboard. And then you have to go back into the XML and figure out why they disappeared from your dashboard and try to get them back. So would love idea forums of Tableau to make the tab order a little bit more user-friendly. But in general, it is a piece that isn't always thought about. But again, when you want to make sure that it is fully accessible for anyone, it's a really important part of that journey. And then my old boss would log in and she only has access to 2. So when in our system, the client used Okta for single sign-on. And within Okta, we did not put the Tableau Cloud URL as that URL when someone hits an Okta tile and says oh yeah, Tableau, let me go there. We actually directed them directly to this site instead of the Tableau online so that they had that user experience. They could see the dashboards that they needed and they didn't have to navigate Tableau online, cloud, server. I don't know actually which one it is. I should know if it's cloud or online, but they didn't have to figure out how to navigate that. They could navigate this dashboard, which had the same layout and styling as every other dashboard that they've been using. So yeah, that is how we set up the landing page. And also, oh, again, I'll put this on the chat, but there is on the blog, no, on the dashboard, there's a link to the blog as well that also has the step-by-step on how we built this. I'm going to try to stop sharing now. If I'm a mess. All right.
Perfect. Any questions? So there was a few questions in the chat that I remember, as Viraj saying, "What's the link to the ideas?" So we can vote that up as well. And a few people talking about that they've done that sort of thing, and Matt mentioned that it could have been a nice thing for the data dev tug is to, make that tab order better. So when you were sort of getting up to that point, I went, oh yeah, it's just based on the order of creation on the dashboard, right? You've just sort of got to do it the right way, but I didn't know that had changed as well.
Yeah, which works because I don't know. I have never created a dashboard in the right order. It's like you put stuff out there, even with a mock-up, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot this or I forgot that. And then like, if you do that at the end, it's completely out of whack.
Yep.
So it does help that it is top down, left, right for countries that read top down, left, right. But there are always instances where maybe that isn't the way that you need it as well.
And I've had to do that sort of government work before as well, is then look at how people with a screen reader interact, so that they are vision impaired enough to, the computer's reading the screen for them as they're tabbing through. And you go, wow, now it's like, tab order is just a silly little thing, right? No, it's vitally important for these people to be able to navigate web pages and things like that properly as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad that there is more focus on it.
Oh, no, definitely. I didn't know the thing about the URL action, so that was interesting that URL actions will be fixed soon, hopefully, maybe.
It should be all actions. So
exactly.
Filter, parameter, URL, it'll be good.
Yep.
Blake is doing some really great work there.
And Melina was saying, for a completely public-facing dashboard, which pieces of accessibility here would you use again?
Completely public, I would use all of them. So the tab order, the more people who are going to be viewing your dashboard, the more important it becomes to ensure that that tab order makes sense. There's a lot of nuances around like what is and isn't accessible by keyboard. I can't remember if they fixed it or not, but at one point text boxes weren't. And so you had to use like the titles of sheets in order for it to read text rather than a text box. But like tooltips are not. And so for a landing page, it's not as critical, but for things with actual visuals and actual data, anything in your tooltip is not accessible by keyboard. So you have to make sure it's available outside of the tooltip as well. And a lot of times we end up with like a data dump page almost, so that you have your visuals, you have what's there, but then you also have a table with that it will read the full table out to you. But that's a big one. And then color, not only the contrast, but also ensuring for a wide range of different color vision. Some of the general practices, doing blue and orange rather than red, green. Mostly there are nuances to that too, but there's nuances with everything. But yeah, in general, trying to do all those checks to make sure that it is accessible by the most people, especially when you go public.
And Melina's saying, was there any other resources that you use to check that sort of stuff?
Oh, a lot. So JAWS, I think, was the screen reader software that we used. And so like Chris was saying, you can have it read to you, and so that you can test it that way. I'll try to find the other URLs, but there's a lot of websites out there that will let you upload either an image of your dashboard or just the URL, and it'll show you what it looks like for different levels of vision. And then there's a website that lets you check that color contrast. In the US, we call it's ADA. And so it does use the US based language of like the color contrast, because sometimes you don't have to be like fully contrast. There's like levels of it, but at least it says the level. So you can decide then what level that you want to be at if you aren't US based. Such as like something might be have a high contrast if it's in a really big font, but in a small font it doesn't. So you can, the website tells you all those nuances, so you can kind of decide how you want it to be. And then yeah, there's a lot of videos back when Tableau recorded everything and put them on YouTube. There's a lot of actual accessibility videos from prior Tableau conferences that are still relevant, that help.
It's always a challenge when you say the general public. It's like, that means a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing a lot of government dashboards, it was like, oh, what's the age range of the users? We used to go 6 to 96.
Yep.
So kids that are getting on there that don't know how to use a computer, or people that are fairly mature that don't know how to use a computer, you don't just aim for the people in between, because you can do anything with those guys, right? It's just those edge cases of, you know, same thing, font size, color contrast. Great. You know, I'm looking at this color contrast just here, and it's just like, would that even pass? Because maybe this stuff wouldn't pass. Of just like you, the same thing as you. I don't have that website bookmark, but there's a website you can go to, feed in the screenshot of your dashboard. It will show you in a whole heap of different color impairment type attributes what your dashboard looks like, and people are just amazed that it looks that bad when you've got that sort of vision deficiency as well. Like, you're going to have to design for that.
Yeah. And even non-accessibility pieces, to your point, is more text than you think you need to tell people. Click to filter, click, hover to find tooltips, because they might not know how dashboards work in general, and they won't know to hover to find more information, or to click a tab to go to a new page. So more instructions than you think you need.
Yeah, definitely. So in the chat, Zaid was saying, do we change the order of the whole dashboard or only the objects we needed in a specific container?
For tab order, unfortunately, it kind of ends up being the whole dashboard. If you're lucky, you can just do the ones that you need. But as I said, two things can't have the same number. So if there's a lot that you're moving around, you might have to renumber everything so that you have enough space in between them that you don't have something with the same number, because then it just disappears.
Can you skip numbers? So do you have to have 1, 2, 3, or could you have 1, 3, 5?
No, the recommendation is actually do like 10, 20, 30, 40.
Yep.
And then that way you can, as you miss things, because you will miss things, you can slot them in.
Well, that's good old programming technique from ages ago. Is, you know, when you had to number every line in a program, is don't go 1, 2, 3, because as soon as you want to put something else in there, you've got to renumber tons of stuff. If you go 10, 20, 30, you've always got those gaps. Exactly. And you've got enough gaps with, you know, when you add in a new one, if you're going between 10 and 20, add in 15, it gives you gaps on either side of that as well.
Yep.
That was a long time ago when we used to number lines in programs. And Matt was saying, we have a combination of these. We have a landing page with all the reports, but data showing in the report is based on RLS security. In one report, RLS is attached to a hierarchy. People can see data only from certain branches of the hierarchy. Yeah, that's the good old. Well, I always recommend doing that with an entitlements table, as you were saying before. It's the easiest way. Is that there can be a whole heap of infrastructure behind the entitlements table. Purely it boils down to who can see what, and then how that links in with the data.
Yeah. They can get really big depending on what you need to key it off of, but that's simple concept, hard to implement sometimes.
And people get worried about size, as you said, really big. And I was like, well, you know, we used to deal with data sets that were millions of rows, and the entitlement table might be, you know, a few thousand rows, a few 100,000 rows. It's really not big at all, but it's complex in how many lines, you know, what sort of implementation do you want, and how many records is that in the entitlements table?
Yeah. And how setting it up in a way that it's easy to maintain.
Yes. Yeah, that's the key. Awesome. Jacob finally arrived. That's fine. that's
Yeah,
the other that's the other thing, right? It's hard to keep track of the times because we just change them all the time.
No.
So here's Nicole's contact details as well. So the Tableau public link she's already put in there for that one workbook, but you can see all the stuff there on LinkedIn or her website as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, we're not finished yet. We've got to get to fast
That's
five.
right. I forgot.
So that's what I'd say, fast five time. So
Yes.
the comment, I think it was last meeting, they went, oh, I prepared for a certain question. No, these questions are always different. No one has ever seen your questions before. The questions from all the other tugs have never been reproduced before. It's sort of the most prep I put into a tug is going through all the questions, because I can't write all these questions. I just use ChatGPT or Claude or something to say, give me some questions.
Yep.
But then obviously we've got to filter out another 80 or so questions that just don't make sense or I don't like them, because they're not ranking questions. It's just your personal feelings. So, you know, it's supposed to be a quick question, a quick answer. You can pass if you want to. Sometimes they're tricky. Sometimes they're really easy. Don't feel pressured to have to answer anything at all. But, you know, it's a good bit of fun at the end, hopefully. So the first question is, yes, for Raj, like there's a huge, I'm getting to the point where I don't know if I should change this or not, because it takes a lot of time to go through what ChatGPT thinks is a good question about Tableau. There was one the other day and it said, do you prefer to join or relate your data together? No, I don't like that one. And it's just, you know, ChatGPT thinks it's being smart, but after a few hundred questions, the quality really goes down. So I've got to continue changing my prompt all the time. Anyway, let's see if you enjoy these. I'm happy to. So the first question is, do you prefer quick filters, parameters, or dashboard actions for interactivity?
Honestly, it depends. So I would say for business, the quick filters and parameters, because I have found people cannot figure out the dashboard interactivity as quickly as I wanted. But for Tableau Public, you can do some really cool things with the interactivity.
Yep, perfect. And number two, how do you feel about the balance between function and beauty in your dashboards?
Very similar answer. I think the reason I have a Tableau Public is because it's all the artsy stuff I don't get to do at work. I mean, at work, I think we still can make really beautiful dashboards. I think that should always be a part of it. You can make really beautiful bar charts that are easy to understand, which is kind of where that beauty is. White space, easy to understand. But you definitely, at work, they aren't coming there to look at art. They're coming there to get an answer. So definitely functional work.
It can feel a bit restrictive on work sometimes.
Yes, that's why I have Public.
Yep, exactly. The next one is, how do you feel when data reveals something unexpected or surprising?
I love that, because that's like the reason that we do data viz to begin with. I love answering questions, and if it gives me more questions, then it's another, kind of analysis we can do, and it can really help drive whatever it is you're trying to drive.
Perfect. And number four, do you have your own recognizable style in Tableau?
I feel like yes. I feel like people have said yes, like, oh, I could tell that was yours, but I couldn't tell you what it is that makes it that way, except for on Public. I definitely prefer dark mode over light mode, but I feel like there's a lot of people who do that.
Yep.
So I've been told yes. I don't know what it is though.
No, but you hear some people saying that, oh, I know that was such and such's dashboard just by looking at it, without even knowing who the author is, because yes, there's some sort of feeling there as well. No, that's good.
Yeah.
And obviously the last one is, how do you feel if or when you accidentally discover a new way of solving a Tableau problem? Or a better way of solving a Tableau problem, I should say.
Yeah. Again, that's another great feeling. And it's one of the reasons that I created the blog post to begin with was I was trying to solve a problem around network graphs and found a way to do it. And now you have Tristan's tool. So my blog is another obsolete thing of mine. However, but no, it's a great feeling to find that way. And I love sharing it with others and then seeing how they take what I discovered and make it even better as well. I think that's a really cool feeling.
But when you were saying you've used Tableau for 9.5 years or whatever as well, you've probably been the same as me. You've gone through the LOD phase. Is you used to do
Yes.
things with data to make it work, and then Tableau said we've got this new thing called LODs. You go, oh, so I don't have to do all that stuff anymore because I can just use an LOD instead. But that's
Yeah.
okay. That it improves as things go along.
It's easy to fall into that like sunken cost fallacy, but I don't know, I like when it becomes more efficient.
Yep. Yeah, it's faster to do things.
Yep.
Awesome. The chat's going on about all the questions. That's what always happens.
Yes.
So the next tug meeting, we've got a whole week between tug meetings, which is crazy. Feels crazy for me. So Timothy's coming on to talk about Python and Tableau. So again, I think he presented this at TC. I'm pretty sure he did. So Nicole has to stay up really late for this one, do the Zayed thing and be online at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, right? Or maybe not. Maybe just watch the recording.
I think I watched that recording.
Yeah. I don't expect people to be online at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. But again, all the times are there. Depends on where you are in the world. The QR code, it's all available on the website as well. Or watch the recording later on. All the recordings are available on YouTube. So the YouTube channel Team DataFam, it's not just this tug, it's all the online tugs that want to use that service, put their videos online. All the recordings are there and indexed properly in playlists and stuff, or you can listen to them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. So I know I do this, I know quite a few people who do it, is listen to the podcast when you can't be watching a screen, and then go back and watch the recordings on YouTube when you actually get back to a normal screen to see what happens. Or as we said here, like go back and go over those steps again because you're trying to implement that at your work or etc., whatever you need to do. If you've got any questions or if anyone wants to present, please email me at team.datafam@gmail.com. We'll have some slots coming up in the future as well. We can always fit everybody in. And my one little plea is if there's anything like this that you missed at TC25 or you want to see again from TC25, let me know or let the presenter know that we run the tugs hopefully once a week. When I say hopefully once a week, sometimes it's even more frequently than once a week to try and get all these in. And my aim is obviously just a single presentation. The presenter can take as long as they want. We can get through the content quickly that way and everyone benefits.
Yes.
So thank you, Nicole, for your time today. That was awesome. It was always good to see how you went through that as well. And if anyone's got any questions, now's the time to unmute and talk. No one unmutes and talks.
I'll just say thank you, but obviously I'll be catching up on the recording.
No worries at all.
Awesome.
I'm going to head out. Thank you so much again.
Yep. No worries. Okay. Thanks for your time. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.